What's up, guys? It's your boy Will coming at you with another movie log, this time not so belated, monthly roundup. So, patting myself on the back for that, but there are only a few movies that I have here, so I'm going to go ahead and just jump into them. Starting things off, we have Nope, the latest film from Jordan Peele. This is a science fiction adventure film starring Daniel Kaluuya as a horse wrangler named OJ, who encounters a strange, otherworldly entity in the sky and must try to, along with his sister, played by Keke Palmer, figure out what this thing is, why it's here, and what its intentions are. So, like many people, I was very impressed with Get Out, which was a very strong and smart debut film. But then Jordan Peele followed it up with Us, which I did not love as much. I thought that even though I admired it for its creativity, I found it to be a little bit uneven, and I just didn't really care as much about the sort of horror survival slasher elements of it as much as I did the big sort of world building reveal at the end. But now I'm very curious to go back and see how it holds up. But yeah, I mean, between those two movies, I sort of went into this with a blank slate. I wasn't sure if I was going to like it or not like it. And come to find out, I ended up loving it. I thought it was great. I thought it was fun, original, and it really demonstrated to me that Get Out was not just a fluke. I am now convinced that Jordan Peele is one of the most creative and confident voices in the film industry. There's a lot to be said about this movie. It's very layered and has this big interconnecting web of themes and symbols like in his other two movies. But if I had to describe what it was that I loved about this movie so much and had to boil it down to one thing, it would be this. Nope is a brilliant movie because it takes the ideas and principles of other films and other filmmakers and uses them to tell a very fun and original story without actually trying to be any one specific film or filmmaker. And here's what I mean by that. So, after I watched this movie, I spent a lot of time thinking about it, which is usually how I know whether or not a movie has clicked with me. And a few things about it sort of dawned on me. On one hand, this is a movie about ordinary people caught in an extraordinary situation where they have to essentially fight this interdimensional entity. It is also a movie that really gets into the sort of setup to the actual action and set pieces. I mean, the characters at one point have to try to figure out what this thing is, and then how they're going to identify it. And then there's this big sort of set piece at the end, but along every step of the way, there's this big focus on the actual kind of nuts and bolts and like procedural side of things, where it shows them kind of figuring out how they're doing what they're doing every step along the way. And really, this is just a masterclass in pacing in the sense that you're constantly being fed a little bit of information, just like parcel by parcel, and it's always just enough to keep you actually invested in what's going on, and no more than that. And in that sense, it's just a masterclass in pacing your movie in a way to actually keep your audience engaged. And the more I thought about all of these things, the more I thought about all of these elements that made this such a successful movie for me, the more I felt like this movie really does capture the essence of filmmakers like Steven Spielberg and John Carpenter from the past. And, I'm not the first person to make this comparison. A lot of people have compared this to Jaws and Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And it is true that those comparisons are totally valid, but what I love about it is it took me a second to really make that connection because it doesn't hit you over the head with it. What Jordan Peele does here is essentially take the principles and the ideas and the techniques that filmmakers like those guys used to tell this original and engaging and fun story that is also, like in a lot of Steven Spielberg's best movies, capable of being quite gruesome. So people forget that about the original Indiana Jones movies and Jaws and Jurassic Park. I mean, those are all like movies that have a dark side, and Nope is definitely no different. It is pretty pretty gruesome and disturbing in some parts, I'm not gonna lie, but it uses elements from those filmmakers without actually trying to be them. And I think that a really good counterpoint to something like this is Stranger Things, which, look, this isn't me dunking on Stranger Things. I think that the people who are involved in that show are very creative and talented, but the thing that bothered me, and granted, I've only watched the first season, I haven't watched anything past that for this reason, but it is constantly, like, that show is constantly gesturing towards, like, oh, it's Poltergeist meets The Goonies, meets Stephen King, meets all of these movies and TV shows from the 80s that people are nostalgic for, and kind of wearing that as a mask and essentially trying to recreate the magic of those properties. And I think that Nope is such a brilliant antithesis to that because it's not trying to recreate anything. Like, it's entirely its own thing. And that can be said of Jordan Peele's body of work at this point. I mean, I said that I didn't like Us that much, but like, it's still a very unique movie. And having a voice is one of the most important things to me as far as whether or not I'm really going to vibe with a movie or a filmmaker. And that's what made this such a breath of fresh air for me personally. I haven't even gotten into Nope's treatment of race and the relationship between media and spectacle that it explores, the relationship between humans and nature, and sort of this question of whether or not nature can be tamed. All of that I might reserve that for a proper video analysis. Just know that this is a very thematically dense movie. And the reason I didn't really talk about any of those things was because I wanted to highlight first and foremost just how much fun I had watching this and how engaging it was, and again, how original it is. There were a couple of things that did bother me about it a little bit. I mean, I feel like Daniel Kaluuya gives a performance that is very deadpan, and to the point that it felt like a conscious decision that was made by Kaluuya and Jordan Peele. I just didn't really understand what it contributed to his character or his performance. So there was that. There was also, spoiler alert, and the end of the movie ends with this big showdown between this alien creature, and you see certain people get swept up by it, and then other people don't get swept up, and I didn't really understand why that was. I mean, it sort of explains it, but it didn't totally make sense to me. It felt kind of inconsistent. So that was a problem that I had with it, but and those criticisms are not insignificant criticisms. It's just that I loved everything else about this movie so much that they were just kind of blips. So anyway, I'm done ranting about Nope. 4.5 out of 5 stars. Go see it in theaters while you still can. Next up, we have Minions: Rise of Gru, and I'm just kidding. But I just want to say and get this out of the way. I understand why parents probably don't like these movies. I mean, they have essentially programmed an entire generation of toddlers and young children to behave in a way that was previously not acceptable and is very annoying and stupid. And I think that in animation, the most important thing, in my personal opinion, is expression. And the reason a lot of children and even adults and parents do like these movies is because these little guys have a lot of expression. They're very fun. Sometimes they really pull on your heartstrings. And it I can't get mad at them. I can't hate them. So I while I don't have any plans on going back and seeing this again, I can appreciate it for what it is, and I was able to enjoy it. So I'm giving Minions Rise of Gru banana out of 5. I don't think they actually say banana in this one. And last up we have The Gray Man, the latest Netflix produced Russo Brothers joint starring Chris Evans, Ryan Gosling, Anna de Armas, and Billy Bob Thornton, where Ryan Gosling plays a CIA field operative who is on the run after he uncovers some information that might undermine the unassailable integrity of the Central Intelligence Agency. Basically, this movie doesn't really have anything in the way of personality beyond the Russo brothers' trademark swarmy dialogue. But the thing is, I'm like a huge sucker for spy movies. Even like big dumb action ones, I just love them. There's something so fun to me about seeing somebody go from country to country with a fake passport, and then they have to establish a connection with their station chief in the safe house, and it's my jam. I love it. And this movie would have probably been a solid guilty pleasure 3 out of 5 star movie for me, but unfortunately I watched it on my TV, and the action sequences, which are very CGI driven and have this sort of garbled look because of that, look even more garbled because the resolution kept sort of struggling to keep up in a lot of the more fast-paced scenes, and at one point the movie even stopped because we had lost a connection. And honestly, I would have been totally fine seeing this in theaters to try and avoid that, but unfortunately, wanting to see movies in theaters makes me elitist. So, 2 out of 5 stars. And that's it. That is my monthly roundup. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to follow me on Twitter for all of my film and non-film takes. Follow me on Letterboxd to see reviews and ratings for movies both new and old. And follow me on TikTok for my British Voices series. Until next time, take care.